when did Star Wars truly begin to decline?
I'm going to say the day Disney bought it, actually. Uh, because, in my opinion, because there were things they could have done, there were things they should have done, and they didn't. Like, okay, it'd be one thing for me to say, well, whenever The Force Awakens came out, the problem is it took 2 years to make The Force Awakens. So it happened back whenever it was first conceived of as an idea. And all the build up to get it to that point, because the, I mean, I could sit here and rail against the fact they tossed the EU. Sure, I think that was a colossal mistake. But the far bigger mistake, in my opinion, was that they wanted The Force Awakens to basically be a New Hope again. And instead of taking a story that existed and trying to logically move it forward in some way, which is what the EU mostly did, they took an endpoint and tried to reverse engineer it. And in writing, that's not what you want to do, apparently, because that just leads to bad things. Bad things like, let's have Operation Cinder. Let's have it so that the Empire somehow loses a year after Return of the Jedi. The Empire that controls 2/3 of the galaxy, that has a fleet of tens of thousands of Star Destroyers, that has other super weapons it can use, loses to the people whose entire fleet was at Endor, some of which was destroyed. Like, that's just that's utter stupidity and insanity. Like, those things don't happen.
Operation Cinder.
Yeah, I only know about it from what your dad has told me when I've looked at it online. But
Oh yeah,
essentially, it's well, the Emperor is dead. And the Emperor's last orders were destroy these planets and destroy this stuff over here and this stuff over here. And it's
oh
like,
yeah, the Battlefront 2 campaign. Where the all right, the Emperor's all right. In his dying words, he wants us to go use these giant solar lasers to burn down these planets, which you know, and the one you see being cindered is the planet that's loyal to the Empire.
yeah, and it's like I see people try to justify it, like, well, Palpatine was petty. I'm like, no, Palpatine wasn't petty. Why do you think Palpatine was petty? Like, probably from some of the dumb shit Disney made. Like, up to that point, Palpatine was a calculating genius. Palpatine, this is the Palpatine who, now from Rise of Skywalker, we know, planned on not actually staying dead. Like, so why is he destroying his own empire? Plus, this is the Palpatine who acknowledged that Vader was going to succeed him at some point. Because remember back in Revenge of the Sith, where he's fighting Yoda, and he tells him, Lord Vader will become more powerful than either of us. He knows that the whole Sith plan is like, Vader will at some point take him out and take over. So the whole point is like, to not destroy the things you built, because the next guy in line is going to take over. So it's just a stupid plan. And so then you get stupid things from that, and then you get the New Republic acting stupid after that, because then you got to explain why they don't have a fleet. Oh, they decommissioned it all. You just spent like several years in the Galactic Civil War after the other Galactic Civil War, where you fought the Separatists, and you're like, nah, we don't need any ships. It's like, no, that's just dumb.
I mean, that's just one of the many problems with Battlefront 2. Besides there was the greedy monetization, the I don't know, and that's not even the only problem with that story in the game, where it's like, oh, you're playing as the Empire. You play as the Empire for 2 missions before you, well, rebel and join the rebels.
Yeah, I'm given to understand that's a problem in Star Wars Outlaw too,
Oh
as
yes,
as well. Not there is no part two, but I mean as well.
Star Wars Outlaws. You're, an outlaw. You can't be bad.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And it's like, are you really an outlaw at that point? But
Well,
yeah, oh, go ahead.
well, d- Han Solo was a smuggler, and trying to make it act like a smuggler is not a criminal.
Well, I think they're hoping no one actually knows what spice is. because he's technically a drug smuggler. I mean,
Yeah.
like he's working for Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt is very clearly an unsavory type. Like he wasn't smuggling like infant formula, to the needy kids on Nar Shaddaa or something. Like, no, it was illicit goods, and that's fine, you know, because the whole point of his character is to show the redemption arc at the end, where he's like, there are more important things, like bringing down this oppressive government that we all live under, things like that, and it was a heroic arc. So, but yeah, just that's where it goes off the rails. But I actually watched a video the other day where this guy said that it's not just that the trilogy that Disney made is terrible. It's like it's an anti-trilogy because each movie is trying to like be anti something else, and it never makes a cohesive whole because of it. Because The Force Awakens is essentially trying to rebel against the prequel trilogy. Because if you ever listen to J.J. Abrams talk, he idolizes the original trilogy, and it's clear he does not like the prequels. What does he not like about them? Well, they're too stiff. They're not funny like the original trilogy. But he doesn't understand that the original trilogy is funny in like subtle ways for the most part. There's no gags. It's not slapstick humor. That's actually in the prequel trilogy in a few places, because George understood that like it can be funny, it just doesn't need to be slapstick. So the humor comes from the situation, from the characters. There's not obviously set up jokes,
Well, I mean,
whereas in the Force Awakens there are.
yeah, you have the difference with the prequel trilogy with just Jar Jar as a whole
Yeah,
versus like the original trilogy where you have, oh, like oh yeah, Han's running away from the stormtroopers, and then he's chasing them, runs into a hangar full of a bunch of stormtroopers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I suppose someone could argue that one's like a setup, like a Benny Hill kind of gag or something. But a lot of it's like where they go to rescue Princess Leia, and it turns out that like she almost didn't need rescuing; she just needed out of the cell. Where they're like, "Hey, we're coming to rescue," and she's like, "So what's your plan?" Like, plan? She's like, "Give me the damn gun," and like it's humor like that, you know, and or like I actually don't know if we're supposed to take this as funny, but in Empire Strikes Back, whenever Vader's like, "Apology accepted, Captain Nita," because he just choked him to death, if it's supposed to be like some dark humor from Vader right there at that point, because like the man's dead, there was no point in saying any of that, and like so he accepted the apology and killed him, or is it really supposed to be like, no, he really did accept the apology, but that's the price of failure, like is it actually a serious moment? And it's things like that, or whenever Leia's like calling Han laser brain and things like that, like a what is it, a nerf herder, and she kisses Luke instead, but little things like that. So, but then, like you said, in the Phantom Menace, obviously Jar Jar is, like that, and that was intentional. Lucas knew what he was doing
Yeah.
because he knew he needed, a younger audience to buy into the new trilogy to have fans going forward. Because the fans of the original trilogy at that point were in their 20s at the youngest, and 40s and 50s at the outer edge. So you got to get those new kids in there, and he just kind of he overshot, and he knew it, and you see that in 2 and 3 where Jar Jar's dialed back in quite a bit. But so J.J. Abrams is like, well, these movies need humor, and since he's a hack, he doesn't understand that like you can have humor without setting up jokes. You don't need gags. You can have situational humor. That's where the humor of the original trilogy comes from. So, and he thought like, well, it's too stuffy, and there's not enough action, so there's just tons of stupid action, and he's just railing against the prequel trilogy essentially. Then comes the Last Jedi, and 400 IQ brain Rian Johnson and his subverting expectations. Well, he's rebelling against the Force Awakens, because he's like, oh, see, JJ, You could have done something different. Like, we could have gone a different way. We could have made Star Wars something different. You didn't. So I'm going to. I'm going to burn down every idea you had, destroy them all. Good luck finishing this. And so then Rise of Skywalker is rebelling against The Last Jedi, trying to like course correct back to the dumb idea from The Force Awakens. So it's just a total incoherent mess because of that.
Also, didn't they like not have? There was no preset idea for what the trilogy was going to be about.
Well, yeah, that was the other big part is that like The Last Jedi was in like conceptual phase whenever The Force Awakens was in theaters. And so like they're like this movie's going to be out like in 2 or 3 years. Like the script should have been done. At the very least the broad strokes should have been known. And there's no excuse for it because within the same company, you look over at the MCU, they've got everything planned out to like 2050. You know, they make minor adjustments for whenever things like your star ends up beating his girlfriend and you've got to remove him from the thing, and hopefully you don't do something stupid like hire Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. And, they course correct, but then they keep moving, you know.
Now instead of Kang, we're getting Doctor Doom.
Yeah, you get rid of Jonathan Majors and just rehire Robert Downey Jr. apparently.
I mean,
don't know if that would have been my first choice, but I understand it.
If Doom's never going to take off his mask.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, obviously, about what's going to happen there. I think a lot of people really expect him to just end up being a Stark variant, because it's going to be asking a lot to be like, you look just like Tony Stark from Earth 616, because they intentionally numbered the Earth wrong to flip off the comic book fans. Because in the comics, the mainline comic universe is Earth 616. So from the comic perspective, the movie universe is Earth like 10,000 something. I don't remember what it is. Because the multiverses, they're all numbered. Well, Earth 616 is the comic universe. So in the movies, whenever they said that, it's like, why? Why did you do that? There was only one number you couldn't say right there, and you did it. And it's just like, fuck off. Why would you do that? So anyway, that little part aside, my point is they have a plan, and they know how to adjust the plan. Star Wars is like, we're going to make these 20 movies, and everyone is like, no, you're not. You're clearly not. You keep announcing things and canceling them. That's not a plan. That's Kathleen Kennedy trying to save her job, and Bob Iger being like, no.
Thank you for watching. This has been a Geek Ball video, Echoes of a Whisper. This has been a clip from one of our podcasts. The link to the actual podcast this is from is in the description of the video if you want to see the entire thing, which we obviously encourage you to do. But otherwise, if you enjoyed what you saw, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Subscriptions and all the rest is definitely appreciated. Comments, as always. But just in general, thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. And check out the other videos we have here on the channel. See you later.